Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
And we are now with Marianne Posse. I hope I'm also pronouncing her name correctly. Marianne Posse. She gives lectures and writes articles on the monetary system in order to make people aware of its damaging impact on life on Earth. And she's inspiring people by telling about new ways of trading and exchanging good services. So money matters. That's the speech, her speech. Marianne will offer us a new perspective into money, rebuilding culture and restoring relationships within the real economy. Rebuilding culture and restoring relationships without money. Economy as if people and planet matter. So we will listen to her. We unfortunately could not have her here with us today, or maybe she's here. I don't know if she will be talking, but we have her video. Marianne, are you here? If not, we will play because she was.
I am here. I am here.
That is wonderful. So you will
But
be.
I'm not saying so much. I think what is pre-recorded is telling.
Beautiful. So we will play your video, and then if you could just join the discussion, it would be wonderful.
Yes,
Yes?
I will.
Okay, thank you so much, Marianne, for coming. And yes, Marianne has been going through some challenges right now, so I hope you're doing good. We've been sending prayers for. We all experiencing in our lives a lot of challenges. So she's amazing that she could make it, even all these things that are going on around her life at the moment. But we will play her video, please. Doug, could we go? We will play it in a minute.
Ever since I was a young student of social anthropology in 1968, I have pondered the question, what is a culture? What is it in a culture that makes people thrive and capable of building communities and live in harmony with each other and with Mother Earth? And contrary, what is it that breaks the holy whole and fiercely destroys the possibility to build enduring relationships and finally turns real wealth into garbage and communities into marketplaces? 1988, I found the answer and the missing piece of my puzzle. I'll tell you about it soon, but first I will present to you an old guy who had thoughts and claims about everything, and lo and behold, still has important things to teach us. Aristotle lived 300 years before Christ in ancient Greece. At that time, his culture suddenly was exposed to a new phenomena, namely privately owned money that would be lent out with a cost. We call it interest, rent, or profit. Aristotle told his fellow men that this new invention was extremely dangerous. It would lead to a disastrous misunderstanding about what real wealth is and also about the laws of nature. According to Herman Daly, from whom I had this story, Aristotle said, "With this new money, which could be replicated in millions, people will come to believe that natural resources also can grow into infinity. In our heads, we mix up the dead entity money with the gifts of the living planet." He spoke about two very different, even antagonistic culture systems, or you can also call them economic systems, oikonomia and chromatism. In every governing system, he says, there is a special view of man, of society, of nature, time and spirit. Briefly, you could say that in oikonomia, man, or rather a human being, is just one species among millions of others. Man did not weave the net of life, she is just a thread in it. She has governing responsibility for all other creatures and also for future generations. 7 generations ahead is a sentence you can still hear from the elders of indigenous cultures. Cooperation and relational thinking is natural and necessary in order to survive. Oikonomia aim at consuming just what you really need, caring for the reproduction of natural resources. Time is circular and death is as natural as birth. If money is used within an oikonomic culture or economy, it would be either ritual objects or an article of use that you can use for exchange. For instance, honey, salt, fish, feathers. Objects that you yourself have made or found. Wealth is what nature Mother Earth gives, and wealth is also the deep feeling of connection that human beings can share. In a crematistic culture, man is on top of an hierarchical ladder or pyramid. He is superior to all other creatures, and it is his birthright to take whatever he wants from what Earth can bring him. Time is linear, and development is seen as an irreversible ongoing process, higher and higher up, infinite growth, infinite progress. Since there is no natural death in a crematistic culture, the disastrous situation in which we find ourselves today comes as an immediate shock. In crematism, wealth is, and listen carefully now, money, no less, no more. I said in the presentation that it is impossible to understand our money system when you look at it from our perspective. And here is why. Most of us carry within us a picture of economy and money systems serving the vast majority of people. We trust our democratic system, even if we grumble over it, and we think that the politicians are doing their best in our interest. Our inner understanding about what economy is more like oikonomia than crematism. When you dare looking at it from the opposite side, it suddenly becomes very logical. It could be a hard awakening to realize that for thousands of years, the money makers have been the money takers through a system of perpetual growth of the money stock that runs in one direction. And through its rounds within the real economy, it grabs big mouthpieces of wealth for those who already have far more than they need, and thus destroys ecosystems, extincts variety of animal life, and breaks society into pieces. Now to the missing piece of the puzzle. I had for 2.5 years been back to university, studying human ecology, international relationships, and third world knowledge, and my focus had narrowed into one question. How come that almost every country that had freed themselves from colonialism still molded their culture or economies after the capitalistic model? Are they just stupid? Is the oppression still so heavy that they can't resist it? Or is there a mechanism within the system that has such a compulsive impact that it makes the system run by itself? The year is 1988, and a female architect working for the UN had just edited a small book called Interest and Inflation-Free Money, How to Make an Exchange Mean That Works for Everybody. I attended the Women's Conference in Oslo, where she presented the booklet, and there and then in the huge lecture hall, the answer to my question hit my head, and on the missing piece of the puzzle it was written, interest-bearing money. Margaret had written the book out of anger because she had met a reaction over and over again when she, as an architect working with ecological building and city planning, presented her drawings. Although the employers first approved of what she showed them and found it both beautiful and functional and also energy saving, it always ended up with a comment, "It is not economically viable, we are sorry." In clear words, there is no enough profit in it. Margaret started to study economy, and soon she found an elderly man who could teach her important and mind-boggling things about the money system. He had taken part in the free economic movement, which was big and widespread during the 1930s. During the lecture, Margaret quoted a special sentence from him. It goes, "Every dollar or other money unit is privately owned and let out with a claim to pay back more than there was from the beginning. We call it interest or rent." Margaret said that it took her 2 minutes to understand what the man said, but it took her 2 years to understand that she in fact had understood it right from the beginning. What Margaret experienced was how the economic system always works, with very few exceptions. Every investment has the goal to make profit to the shareholders, not to build functional and beautiful houses for people. The book very soon got translated into many languages. I made the Swedish one, and with it and yearly seminars called Money Matters, it did actually start a peaceful revolution on the ground. Now, culture has turned into economy, and economy has turned into that special form of monetary economy that we can call crematism. Wealth has changed from being natural resources to something we call money, and what is today just digits or numbers in a ledger. Only 5% of all money in Europe is bills or coins. How can the politicians tell us that there is a lack of money? Is there a lack of numbers? They can't improve the elderly care, they can't invest in children, and so forth, because there is a lack of numbers. Is it, really? During the first corona year, I don't know how many millions of Swedish crowns the Central Bank of Sweden spent into society. And when Stefan Ingves got the question from a journalist, "Is there no stop in the money tap?" he answered, "No, there isn't." But don't forget, this money is not for free. There will be interest and compound interest on them. Here are some signs of crematism in our societies. Maybe you have noticed. Policy is subordinated the commercial banks and their will to lend money. Even the state can't create the money they need for people's survival or well-being. Progress and wealth is measured by GDP, BNP in Swedish, a measure that counts both good and bad. Consequently, trees are worth a lot more cut down as timber as they are as individual species excuse me, in a diversified forest. Number 3, it is well known that a handful of super-rich men owns as much as the 50% poorer part of the world. Number 4, we are no longer members of a society. We are working slaves and products on a market. 5, the income gap between rich and poor has never been as big as it is now, especially in Sweden. 6, 98% or more of all so-called money travels around in the fancy world where speculators buy and sell different paper products. Only 2% or less stays in the real economy where real people exchange goods and services. I know that there is a great agreement among the alternative thinkers concerning what money should or should not be. First of all, we all agree that money used for circulation in society should not be privately owned. It should not be possible to speculate with household money. Commercial banks should not be bailed out with taxed money. Money should not be seen as a thing. Money should be a mean or a tool for exchanging things we need. The new money is no money, says Professor Thomas Greco, one of the most prominent persons in this field. Despite his age of 85, he still travels all over the globe in order to educate and inspire people on the ground to take destiny in their own hands. The goal is threefold: to empower communities to become more self-reliant, to protect the environment, and to slip out of the grip of conventional money. Greco has worked with this issue for 40 years inside and outside university, and he's taking a broad perspective on the subject. Actually, his aim is to restore culture without money. But living in a world of interacting and dependence of each other, we do of course need to exchange goods and services also worldwide. The solution is named CC, credit clearing. Instead of money being lent out from a bank, Greco proposes businesses, companies and individuals to exchange goods and services and keeping track of the transactions digitally. This is in fact something that big companies already do all over the world. It is called barter, and WTO, World Trade Organization, reckon that about 25% of all international trade will be using this method in 2025. No banks involved, no profit to middlemen. In Switzerland, there is an CC system that has run just as long as Thomas Greco has lived. It is called WIR, and it has about 50,000 members. That's about 20% of all small and middle small businesses in Switzerland. It functions very well, so the government is happy for their contribution within the Swiss market. Actually, there are thousands of local exchange systems around the world. In order to succeed in the long run, such systems should not be too small, not too big either. Ideally, many exchange circles that can cooperate with the help of a regional currency would be the best solution. What some of us saw 30 years ago is obvious for a much larger group of people today. Internet is full of YouTubes on how banks create money out of thin air. The international organization Positive Money has had conversations with politicians and central bank officers, and all over the globe creative people start new monetary systems. Since 1988, much of what was previously hidden is now out in the air. Everybody knows that banks are privately owned with the imperative to make profit to their shareholders. This rapidly growing awareness creates an opportunity for change. And change is coming, but only if we are apt to use our imagination and get the false presumption of what economy is and money is out of our heads. And thank you for listening.
Just det, nu tittar du åt vänster direkt. Så ja, men det gör inget.
Very good, Marianne. really, we enjoy very much your topic, because in reality, it's just appropriate, no, more than appropriate for this moment. Means new perspectives, about the money, right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, we can see that if one topic is good, the next also is good. And